and never leave each other.
Not in wealth or in hunger, not in joy or in sorrow.
Whoever breaks this oath, may their heart never know peace.
In the old town of Amate, where palm trees whispered ancient secrets, there lived a young man named Obina and a young woman named Neka. From childhood, they walked side by side, like the left and right wings of a bird. Their love was so deep that the elders often said, if one breathes, the other sighs. When they gained admission into the same university, their bond grew even stronger. They studied together, prayed together, and dreamed together. And on the night before their graduation, they did something dangerous, something forbidden in old folk tales. Under a full moon, by the silent river, they pricked their thumbs and let their blood touch. With trembling voices they vowed, we will love and never leave each other, not in wealth or in hunger, not in joy or in sorrow. Whoever breaks this oath, may their heart never know peace. The wind roared as though the ancestors had heard them. The river rippled though nothing touched it, but in their excitement, they ignored these warnings. They sealed the oath with a kiss. After school, they rented a small room and began life together. They were poor, but they laughed often. They shared one plate, one bed, and one dream. Soon, Obina found a fine job in the city. His salary was good, and his future shone like morning sun. Through it all, he held Neka close, telling her, your day will come, I'll never leave you. People adored them on social media, the perfect couple they called them. They became a symbol of young love, loyalty, and hope. But fate, like a silent leopard, was already prowling.
One evening, after work, Obina met a woman named Adara. She was beautiful, confident, and dressed like someone whose life was already arranged. She spoke gently, laughed sweetly, and praised his achievements. Unlike Neka, still jobless and struggling, Adora had her own career and seemed to lack nothing. Day after day, their conversations grew longer. Obina felt a strange warmth he could not explain. And on his birthday, while at the office, Adara surprised him with a cake, gifts, and a handwritten note that said, you deserve the best. He felt seen, valued, celebrated. When he returned home, Neka hugged him, sang a simple birthday song, and gave him a small kiss. That was all she had to offer. And for the first time, Obina compared the two women. Like a cloud before rainfall, tension began to gather. Neka's weight gain, her lack of a job, her constant dependence, things he once overlooked now irritated him. One night, during a heated argument, words sharper than knives flew from his lips. I don't want this relationship anymore. Leave my house. Neka dropped to her knees, tears pouring like rain. Obina, don't do this. We vowed under God and moon. Please. But his heart had already drifted. He dragged her suitcase, opened the door and pushed her out. Her cries echoed into the night, but he shut the door. And just like that, the blood oath was broken. He welcomed Adara into his home, into his life, and into the space Neka once filled. For a while, everything glittered like gold. But the ancestors say, when the heart betrays a sacred promise, the shadow of consequence begins to wake. And though Obina did not know it, his shadow had already risen.
For a while, Obina believed he had won that life. Adora filled the house with perfume, laughter, and shiny things. They went out, took pictures, posted romantic videos, and people online praised them as couple goals. Obina smiled in every photo, but deep inside, there was a tiny emptiness, like a quiet knock he refused to hear. Still, he ignored it. He told himself the past was gone. Neka was gone. And the oath was just a childish mistake. The first crack. 4 months into his new relationship, Obinna walked into work one morning to find the office unusually silent. No greetings, no smiles. His manager called him in. The words were short, cold, final. "We're letting you go." Just like that, his job disappeared. His chest tightened, but he forced a smile, telling himself Adora would comfort him, support him, stand by him. But when he told her, her face changed. Sweetness drained from her voice. Her eyes hardened like stone. "So, no more salary?" Obinna nodded slowly. She hissed. That night, she didn't hug him, didn't speak to him, didn't even sit close to him. The silence was heavier than darkness. The next morning, she pointed at the sink full of plates and said, "Since you're not going to work, clean this house and cook, at least be useful." Her voice was sharp, nothing like the gentle tone she once used. Obinna's heart trembled, but he obeyed. Day after day, the insults grew sharper. She called him lazy, useless, a burden. Every word cut deeper than a blade. But he stayed, afraid to be alone, afraid to admit he had chosen wrong, afraid to face the echo of the promise he once made.
The night of the accident. One morning, desperate for a job, Obinna left the house early. His steps were heavy, his mind stormy. As he crossed the road, a speeding motorcycle appeared out of nowhere. There was a screech, a crash, darkness. When he woke up, pain tore through his right leg. It was broken, wrapped in bandages, immobile. The bill was high, too high. Surprisingly, Adora paid it. She brought him home, laid him on the bed, and for a moment he thought she cared again. But as days passed, her patience shrank like dying fire. She fed him with anger, bathed him with complaints, talked to him like he was a burden she regretted picking up. Until one day, she snapped. "I'm tired. I didn't sign up for this." She grabbed her bag and slammed the door behind her, leaving him helpless, unable to walk, unable to cook, unable to even get a glass of water. He called her again and again. No answer. Obinna lay alone in the dark, his tears soaking the pillow. And that was when he heard it. A faint whisper, soft, chilling. "A vow broken is a death owed." His heart raced. He looked around, but the room was empty. He convinced himself it was just his mind playing tricks. But the whisper returned, this time closer, a death that always returns. He shut his eyes tight and prayed until sleep found him. The strange man. A week later, Adaura returned, but she wasn't alone. A tall man stood beside her, his face cold, his voice low. Obinna watched them whisper, watched their hands brush against each other, watched the way they avoided his eyes. Fear crawled through his bones. "Who is he?" Obinna asked the next day. Adaura didn't blink. "My brother."
But there was something in her smile, something sharp and mocking that told a different story. Obinna wanted to shout, to demand the truth, but he was powerless. He couldn't walk, he couldn't even feed himself. So he swallowed the truth like poison. Every night, he heard muffled voices, footsteps, laughter, a man's voice in his house, sometimes a woman's gasp. He covered his ears and cried silently, and the whisper returned. The heart that betrays will know no rest. Obina trembled. Was it guilt? Or something else? Something ancient? Something watching? The breaking point. After a month of torment, insults, cheating, coldness, something inside him cracked. He pointed to the door and said, weak but firm, "Leave." Adara laughed cruelly. How will you take care of your miserable self? No job, no money, no future. Her words echoed like thunder. She walked out, slamming the door, leaving him in a silence so heavy it felt alive. For 3 days, he crawled around the house struggling to survive, hungry, dirty, alone. On the third night, with shaky fingers and a trembling heart, he dialed the number he had promised never to call, Neka. She didn't answer. Not the first day, not the second, not even the third. Obina lay in the dark, praying, sobbing, regretting. And the whisper came again, this time right beside his ear. The oath remembers. His blood turned to ice. The door opened. On the 7th day, just as he was losing hope, the door creaked open. Someone stepped inside. Soft footsteps, familiar perfume, a quiet gasp. Neka stood there, stronger, sharper, dressed in fine office clothes, her eyes wide with shock as she saw the man who once threw her into the night. Obina tried to speak, but no words came. And in the stillness between them, thick with pain and memory, the whisper faded for now.
When Neka stepped into the house, she paused, not because Obina was injured, but because the air felt heavy, like a room holding its breath. Dust clung to the furniture, plates were piled in the sink, and the once lively home was now a cage of silence and regret. Obina sat on the bed, thin and pale, his right leg stiff in its cast. His eyes, once full of pride, were now empty pools of shame. "Neka," he whispered, voice trembling. For a long moment, she didn't answer. She simply stared, taking in the man who once pushed her into the cold night. Then she exhaled softly. "I came because you called. Nothing more." Obina lowered his head and began to cry. Not loud tears, but the kind that soaked deep into his soul. And for the first time since the accident, he wasn't alone. 5 months of death. Days turned into weeks, weeks into months. Neka moved into the house, not as a lover, not as a partner, but as a helper. She cooked, she cleaned, she washed his clothes, she helped him bathe, she took him to the hospital, she fed him when he couldn't lift his spoon. Never once did she raise her voice. Never once did she mention the past. Never once did she say the word love. Obila tried to apologize again and again, but Neka always stopped him with the same quiet sentence: focus on healing. Sometimes at night, when Obina slept, she would stand by the window and stare at the moon, the same moon that witnessed their vow. Her eyes glistened, but she never let a tear fall. The pain she carried was deep, but buried. Meanwhile, Obina began to hear fewer whispers. The house felt lighter. His nightmares faded. Slowly, he started to believe that maybe, just maybe, the curse of the broken oath was loosening its grip. By the 5th month, Obinna could stand again, then walk, then move without help. Soon after, he got a job better than the first. His salary doubled. His future, once shattered, began to shine again. For the first time in a long time, he laughed. And he looked at Nneka with the eyes of a man who finally understood her worth. The final conversation. One cool morning, Nneka folded her clothes into a small suitcase. Obinna walked in and froze. Where are you going?" he asked, panic rising. She didn't look at him. She simply zipped the bag. "My time here is finished," she said gently. "You can take care of yourself now." Obinna rushed forward. "No, Nneka, please, don't go. I'm better because of you. I need you. His voice broke. "I love you."
Nneka finally turned to him, and for the first time in months, he saw every emotion she had tried to hide. Hurt, betrayal, strength, and something like distant love. She took a slow breath. "Obinna, let me ask you one question." He nodded, desperate. "If you had never lost your job, if you had never had that accident, would you have remembered me?" Silence. Heavy. Crushing. True. Obinna opened his mouth, but no words came. Because the real answer, the only answer, was no. His heart froze. Nneka gave a sad smile. "That silence is all I needed." She walked past him, suitcase in hand. As she reached the door, she paused. "Some promises are meant to be honored, but you broke ours, and love cannot grow in the ruins of betrayal." She stepped outside. The door closed, and this time, Obinna was the one left in the darkness. The curse awakens. That night, as he lay alone, the house felt colder than ever. The moonlight crept across the floor like silver fingers. The air thickened, and then the whisper returned. Soft, icy, closer than before. A vow broken, a heart shattered, a peace denied. Obinna sat up, trembling. "No," he whispered. "Please, no." The whisper called through the room like smoke. She paid her debts. Now the rest belongs to you.
His chest tightened. His breath caught. His heart pounded like a drum of doom. He felt the weight of every choice, every betrayal, every selfish moment, and he knew this was not just heartbreak. This was the consequence of a sacred promise broken under the moon. A promise that the ancestors never forgot. The ending no one saw coming. From that day on, Obinna lived a successful life. Money, career, comfort. But his heart was never whole again. He could not love. He could not trust. He could not sleep without hearing the whisper of the oath he shattered. People saw him smiling, dressed in fine clothes, driving fine cars. But at night, when the world was quiet, he cried. Because the one person who loved him without condition was the one he threw into darkness. And the folktale of Amagumonte became a warning passed down through generations. Never swear a love you are not ready to carry, for a broken oath does not break, it waits. The blood oath was gone, the love was gone, and Obinna's heart was forever broken.
Please do not forget to like, subscribe, and leave your thoughts in the comment section.